YouTube Battle Community, Beach Boys fans, random people on the internet. My name is Giggens. We're here today with my good buddy Dreadful Dan of Dreadful Dan's Dis. Hello, Dan.
Hi, how you doing? Good to
I'm
see
doing
you.
well, man. Good to see you. We're going to be talking about the Feel Flows box set for a while
Oh
here.
my God.
So the other day, Dan sent me a message and he was like, hey, we should talk about this. And I'm like, hey, that's a great idea. So here we are. And as all you Beach Boys fans know, and as we know for sure, this is something that's going to take a while to really digest. And you get so deep into this thing over and over again and realize how much they made. It's incredible how much music they made back then.
What a fertile time for the band. And it's great that it's now been done justice. This box set, I think for me, it's delivered everything that I hoped it could. And it's such a treasure, labor of love, and everyone involved has really kind of made something that fans can really enjoy and pour over. And like you say, probably spend at least the next year until we get the next copyright extension release.
Yeah.
Just continually going back to.
It just blows my mind that we have a Sunflower and Surf's Up box set. Like, you've been a fan for a long time too. Like, if you had said this a long time ago, 10, 15, 20 years ago, about a box set from this era, it wasn't something that anyone would have ever put effort into, ever. Because for most people, the Beach Boys stopped in 1966, then they put out Kokomo, and that's their whole story. So, like, to be able to hold this thing and look at it and be like, wow, an a cappella version of Surf's Up, like, who knew, man? Like, it's so far out.
Yeah,
how do
it's
you
been
feel
cool
about
for
that?
me. Well, I'll be honest, these two, I know these are like big fan favorite albums, but they're not my favorites.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'd even kind of put them in my top 10.
Really?
Yeah, even
Wow.
when I first got into the band, and you're like, okay, where'd you go from Pet Sounds? And a lot of the advice was Sunflower. And when I first heard Sunflower, I was actually kind of disappointed. I think like what a lot of people I know love about Sunflower is like all the contributions of all the band members and that it kind of comes together as a whole. But I don't necessarily feel it's got that cohesion.
Yeah.
And I actually prefer 2020, I think, because that's got contributions from all the band and it's definitely not cohesive. But I think I just prefer the songs. But what I love about Sunflower, and I mean, Sunflower is more cohesive than Surf's Up as well. But I think what I love is the era more than those two albums.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think Sunflower and definitely not Surf's Up were like the 12 best songs they could have picked. And here's the proof, in my opinion. Now we can just enjoy the whole full spoils of that whole era. And, I've been having fun putting together all my like fantasy albums and like a double album, like the Beach Boys White Album.
Yeah. It's funny you say that because I just did that the other night on Spotify. I made an album.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, I called it Sunflurp. So it's basically, I think it's 13 or 14 songs, like the best of that era. So it's stuff that wouldn't necessarily have ever been together at the same time. But, if they put this out like 1972 or something of like, hey, here's what we didn't finish off for the last couple of years. But it opens with Sound of Free, which I thought was a great opener, for an album.
Yeah, totally.
Cool little opener, But that's funny that you like 2020 better. Wow, that's pretty far out. That's honestly, it's one of my least played albums by them, but I like it. It's just not one that I go to. But again, I understand liking the era and liking where they were and their process and their story. How has Sunflower grown on you over the years? How has it changed?
I'll be honest, I've kind of I put it to the back of my mind a bit. Like I said, there were songs around this, and I'm a big, like you, I delve into all the bootlegs and everything. Yeah. So I knew there were songs that I preferred. But actually, like the last few weeks has been revelatory. Because again, I suppose like I shouldn't be surprised, but I am surprised because I'm like, I didn't realize how incredibly rich these instrumental tracks were. Or again, like the harmonies actually, they sound different here to how they've sounded in the past.
Yeah.
And I think because, you know, the Unsurpassed Masters, Sea of Tunes, bootleg box sets. So in the last few years of the copyright extension releases, I've been all that kind of stuff. It doesn't interest me as much because I've kind of heard it, and you can only hear it so much.
Right.
But those box sets end with the Capitol era. So listening to this, I realized I've never heard actually all this stuff stripped back for these two albums. And those harmonies, there's something they're shifting. Something's happened. They're a bit different. They sound a little bit more, I don't know, contemporary. But yeah, I'm actually falling in love with these albums a little bit more. Like for me, the big surprise here is listening to that instrumental version of Sunflower that they've kind of assembled. I like how they've done that. I don't think it's on the LPs, but on the CDs, they've kind of given you an instrumental version of each song in order. Yeah. And I was like, I kind of prefer this to the original album. Maybe.
Yeah. It's like a whole other song because like the amount of background vocals on top of the backing track lends itself to almost be a complete song. Like when I heard Slip On Through and I finally got to figure out those background vocals in the chorus, I made an Instagram post about it because I was so stoked. Like after 15, 20 years of trying to figure out what they're saying, figuring it out was like Christmas morning. It was unbelievable. But, and then, you're right. Hearing that, it's funny because like I feel like they influenced all those vocal bands of the late 60s, early 70s, like Crosby, Stills, Nash & Young or the Eagles or stuff like that. And then they in turn were influenced by those bands that they influenced because their vocals at this era are different from how they were even 5 or 6 years earlier. So there's a maturity and a growth to it, but the sound they got with that production team on that album in particular for me, like their background vocals are angelic. I mean, they are from they never did that ever again. Like they always sounded great, but they never sounded like that ever again. Damn.
It's true.
Yeah. So
I had a little bit of a moment like that as well with Don't Go Near the Water.
Oh yeah, that's a very surprising track, stripped away.
Yeah, I always just thought the chant was like basically what they did on Heroes and Villains, you know. Do you and then I hear this and it's like, they're singing Dirty Water.
Yeah.
I'm like, sorry, did everyone else realize that? It's taken me 10 years to figure that out.
That's the thing. They mixed it so well that you get this like blend of everything all at once and you don't necessarily hear all those parts separated. So that's what keeps blowing my mind about this thing. Like having an album you love and then loving it even more when you hear everything else that's on it. It's the brilliance of the band. Yeah. It has been
just
fun.
These little Easter eggs. Like I thought I knew what I was going to be excited about on this box set, but loads of little things, have surprised me. Yeah. I don't know. What for you are like the key kind of like top line things that you've loved about it, or like some of the biggest surprises?
Honestly, hearing a lot of these songs in a much cleaner produced way, like because a lot of these songs I've had as MP3 bootlegs from over the years, and they've always been kind of shoddy, really thin MP3 files. So hearing them super cleaned up, really well produced, particularly the Dennis Wilson stuff like Sound of Free and Lady. We've had a couple of those. We've had Lady for a while, but hearing Sound of Free so cleaned up, fantastic. Really nice version of San Miguel, but especially I got the track list in front of me. Hearing that other version of Big Sur from that era, I've read about that for years, and I've never heard that till they released it this past summer. And like that version, I almost prefer that one over the Holland one. I love them both, but that one for me is just so smooth and peaceful and like a nice little summer breeze, But even little weird stuff like Sweet and Bitter. What an unexpected little track with Mike sounding so different from his, like, I'm just the only person here kind of in the room singing to myself with someone on guitar. Or My Solution, the Halloween song. We get to hear that. It sounds so good. I mean, so some of the stuff I've had, but a lot of it I've never had, like just the backing tracks with the backing vocals on them have been eye-opening or ear-opening, if you will. But what about some tracks for you?
I mean, I was anticipating all the Dennis stuff. That's what I wanted. Like you said, some of those songs I already had, but really sounding quite terrible. Yeah. But I'd say a good like half of those Dennis songs have never leaked. I never heard before.
Yeah, a good chunk of them. Yeah.
So that's all been amazing. But like the surprising stuff, I never knew, for example, Susie Cincinnati was such a hot track. That sounds amazing.
Yeah.
I've never really thought much of that song, but
The song that will never die.
Yeah. Look, we got to talk about that when we get to it.
Right.
It's many, like it's like Lazarus.
Yeah.
The Lazarus of the Beach Boys.
We need a B-side. Put it on. We need a live song. Put it on. We need one more song for an album. Put it on. I don't care if it's been 6 years. Put it on.
But the extra detail that's been drawn out in that track, I don't know what it is. Like there's some extra, just like, I don't know, like stinging guitar. There's some extra kind of like vocals in there, just kind of like expressive, like, whoa. I think maybe like emphasis on like the hi-hats and the beat. It just rocks harder.
A little bit of a hotter like, production on it.
Just hits you a bit more emotionally. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, okay, actually this is, I'm into this. This is rocking.
It's funny you say that because like it's always been a song for me. I'm like, nah. You know, like give or take, it's whatever. Susie said,
likewise.
It's fine. But like, hearing it on this box, I'd be like, damn, this song's freaking great. Crank it up, Al. So we have an outline you created, which I really enjoy how you set this up. So we can kind of go through as we do this. I guess we can just jump into the record.
Well, I was going to say, before we get to that, we could just talk a little bit about basically this journey we've been on for the last 18 months.
Ooh,
just anticipating this box set.
Yeah,
because obviously we were all expecting, we've been spoiled, haven't we, the last 5-6 years. Gets to December and you get a nice big dump of Beach Boys. Yeah. And of course, we got the CD, didn't we? We got Sunshine Tomorrow, and then I was heartbroken that we didn't get similar for Friends in 2020. Still holding out. Maybe one day we'll
that's
get
what the plan is now.
Something.
Last I heard, that's been the update, is that because they've seen how well this is done, they want to go back and put those out officially. So it might be a handful of years. No, it might be a handful of years from now, but we'll see them eventually. It sounds like.
That is the best news I heard all day.
Because of the new management team they have. The Irving Azoff deal that went through, like they've really pushed for this thing, and they made the packaging look so good and so fun to look at and very eye-catching, and the content on it is unbelievable. So they've seen the reception of this. It's sold over at this point over 10,000 copies, which is pretty damn good for an album that didn't do too well 50 years ago. And for a whole new promotional team, finally the Beach Boys have a good production promotional team. So, they want to go back and put those out. But I think the next thing to come out will be the Carl and the Passions era. And we'll probably get the other ones from Capitol, I'd say in 2023 maybe, or 24. So it's going to be a while, but...
that's cool. Hopefully that's within my lifetime.
Yeah.
That's all I care about.
Classic Beach Boys. That's funny.
But,
But,
I mean, like 2019, all we got was 3 songs and a piece of artwork that looked like someone has hastily typed it into Word.
Not even
1969.
What a year. Only 3 extra songs were made. I mean,
but that's now those 3 songs aren't on this, and they're now unavailable for streaming or download.
Oh, that's right. They took them off. Yeah.
So
I bet they pulled them because they're going to use them for a box set.
Yeah, but then they didn't use them. So
for the next one. They'll I have a feeling they're going to do something else. I mean, Breakaway's on this thing, which technically it shouldn't be, but I understand why it's here. Only because that was released through Capitol, whereas everything else was through Warner Brothers.
Oh, right, yeah.
Even though I know Capitol owns everything now, like they own UMG owns the Capitol or the catalog, but it is strange that Breakaway's on here. But yeah, I'm wondering if they took those off as like a teaser to be like, well, we can make money off these instead. So hang on a second. Pull them.
I think that was it. Like pull them. Maybe they were anticipating they would be on the box, and then they're not.
That's
here.
True.
So I don't know.
Yeah, that's true. They had a lot to work with, so yeah, it could have been.
Yeah, I kind of miss it. I'd like them to be here basically because I'm a obsessive completist.
Same. Yeah.
And I'm like at night, it's keeping me awake at night. I'm like, where's that alternative version?
Write
I'm
a
going
letter.
your way.
Write a letter to your local Spotify. Dear Spotify, I'm a
Beach
big
Boys
Beach Boys fan.
It just can't keep us happy.
You're missing
Given
3
us
songs.
like what 120 songs.
Right.
I'm like, where are those 3?
You really messed this up, Spotify. Damn it.
But it's been a tense 18 months for people tracking the story, right? I don't know if you're a member of Smiley Smile message board, but I don't really post there, but I keep an eye on the conversation.
Yeah.
So there's been as much conjecture about this thing. I think there's like a thread. It's like 150 pages long. Yeah. And then when it finally arrived, there's like 5 pages of discussion, and then people are like, "Right, where's the Carl and the Passions box?"
That's classic. Yeah, 2 years of waiting. We got it. All right, when's the next one coming out? That's funny.
That whole time, it's all part of the drama of being a Beach Boys fan, right? Yeah. All this kind of like conjecture about who's blocking it. Is it the label? Is it a certain member of the band who maybe wants certain executive producer credits or blah, blah, blah. But I mean, thanks to, I think, like Howie Edelson, who wrote liner notes here. He was quite active, just like telling people, like, it's coming, but anything you can do to encourage the label and that there's the desire for it is helpful, and kind of get that, like, almost felt like grassroots movement. Like, we want our Field Flows box set.
Yeah.
And it's 100%. Paid off.
100%, man. Yeah, I mean, that knowing that there's an audience out there to buy it, I think is a big reason that Capitol did it. I mean, like when Sunshine Tomorrow came out, we were all stoked about it, but also no one bought it. It sold extremely poorly, and it disappeared very quickly. And I think that Capitol saw that, and they're like, "Oh, we're not going to do that again. We're not going to waste materials to print something else up, because if 18 people are going to buy it, there's no point in doing this." But with this new team behind them for promotions to do a giant box set like this, the future is in our grasp at this point of what they can do. So it's a very exciting new birth for them, and rightly so. They're all getting up there in age. We want the legacy to live on. We want new generations to pick this thing up 30 years from now and be like, "Damn, these guys were good. They were really onto something. Keep that dream alive." But yeah, the last 18 months have been weird. I remember on Instagram around Halloween time last year, I did a little drawing of like what I would carve into a pumpkin to make it look scary. And I carved in the drawing, I drew Field Flows Will Never Come Out or something like that. It was because at the time it was like, we're never going to see this damn thing. Like, it's never going to happen, I still can't believe it's on our shelves. I can't believe we can. I mean, it's like right behind you. We can see it now. It's a very weird thing to hold it, I don't believe it's real, It's a very strange thing, but
I love how you've embraced that feeling and that you're reveling in this moment, though, with your 5 copies.
Yeah, I'm keeping the Beach Boys alive right now. I've got I bought the 2 CD, the 5 CD, the standard LP, the website colored vinyl, and I've got another one coming in from Japan, the Japanese CD that you told me about. Yeah, I bought one because it's listed as a like a higher res audio or something. Plus, it's got the Obi strip on it. So I mean, all right, it's gonna look cool. So that'll be
just for that Obi strip.
Yeah, just for the Obi strip alone is cool, but yeah, so that's supposed to be coming in. Well, the time we're filming this, it's coming in next week apparently, but so stoked about that. But man, yeah, I'm enjoying every second of this era of all of this, because for the longest time I didn't review Sunflower for years because I didn't know how to do it. I was like, this album is too special to me to screw it up. I got to take my time. And so I finally did it last summer with a whole month of videos, and then to have this whole era in a box set, it's just a nonstop magical experience over and over again, because it's one of my favorite records ever. Yeah, it's far out, man. It really is.
And we have to say thanks, to everyone who made this happen as well. Obviously Howie, obviously Mark Linnett, Alan Boyd,
yep,
Jerry Schilling apparently as well.
I'm
really
sure
went to bat for this.
Yeah.
Apparently, he was really battling at the in the corridors of power.
He's
So,
been a good. He's always been good with the Beach Boys. I have to admit, he's been one of their good managers. He worked with Carl for a long time. But yeah, all of those guys, the Irving Azoff team at the new, I can't remember the name of the promotion company. I just talked about it. Legacy Rocks or something. I can't remember what it's called, but yeah, having that behind them now is just so cool. Like, there's going to be T-shirts and posters and stuff you can buy, like anything Beatles related you can think of. The Beach Boys will have that too.
Oh man,
it's so exciting. Yeah,
gotta start saving on pennies.
Yeah. You thought this was expensive. Just wait.
So should we get on? We're gonna go like deep into the Sunflower.
Yeah.
Have a chat about what was going on. I've got my list of all the recording sessions and songs, and then we can just go through and to hell with it. Let's just talk about every single song we can.
Let's do it. All right, so let's talk about the lead up to Sunflower and Surf's Up, what the band was like at that time. So 1969 was definitely one of their worst years business-wise. I mean, they had been suing Capitol for royalties. Capitol didn't like that, so they went off and said, hey, the Beach Boys are still America's #1 surfing band. Screw you guys. We're not going to let you evolve. We remember when you made us money back in the day. Now you guys are canceling tours because no one wants to come see you. Also, it's our fault. And, I mean, they were huge in Europe, and especially in England. I mean, at that time, they were gigantic. But in America, they couldn't sell free tickets. I mean, they have to cancel most of that Friends tour. It's sad. In 1968, they tried, well, let's put out another greatest hits album. Let's put out an album without their voices on it. Like, they were trying anything to sell Beach Boys product, and people just lost interest. So by 1969, the Beach Boys knew they were in trouble. And there's that classic interview with Brian where he was like, we need to sell a lot of copies of Breakaway or else we're going to be bankrupt. And their management team was like, don't ever say that. He was like, I'm being honest. Like, we're screwed. We need to sell money. We need to make money here and sell records. And then Murray sold his songs underneath them. He sold Sea of Tunes. Which broke Brian like crazy.
That's so sad. That's like, when you look at the list of like events between like 66 to 70 of like blows that Brian was dealt, that really feels like he's already down and out to a degree. It's like the real kick in the teeth. Yeah.
I mean, they stole his babies from him. All that hard work, all those. You have to think too, like in the early 60s, they put out like sometimes 3 albums a year and then singles. And they were on tour and then doing radio. They didn't stop. And Brian was behind 99% of the stuff at that time. So they ran him ragged. So by the time he was 23, when Pet Sounds came out, he had done a decade's amount of work in 3 years. Yeah. They wrung him dry. And then they didn't like him because he wasn't putting out more product. It's like they were such a money-making. I mean, it's, industry rule number 480, record company people are shady. So little Tribe Called Quest reference. It's sad that they treated their artists like commodity. It's truly, to look back on that is depressing because you see how happy Brian is. You see him working. You see him start to have, a little bit of a shift, and then he gets into Pet Sounds, and then everything falls apart with Smile, and then he just doesn't care, and then he shows up once in a while. It's like they ruined him.
Yeah.
Yeah, man.
Which is why this year it feels like a little bit of a blossoming again. I mean, that's what's nice and what everyone I think loves about the album. And in the liner notes here, Bruce talks about it, is that they were genuinely in 1969 all working together. Like they're going to Brian's house to record. They're all just turning up. What we're going to work on today. Everyone's bringing songs in. Brian seems comfortable in his role. Mm-hmm. And there is, some gelling, maybe some, I don't know, end of an era with the Capitol deal ending and like, okay, things aren't so great for us at the moment, but something new and exciting is coming on the horizon.
Yeah.
But like,
Yeah.
and they just, I think early in the year, I mean, they start off recording some songs. We'll come into what those were, but then they go on the European tour, and that must have been really good, like a boost for them to see all those like crowds and the positive response.
Yeah.
I think they then had a deal hanging in the balance with Deutsche Grammophon.
Yes. Yeah.
Which it sounds really great. And then Mike's kind of like, and they're actually in Germany, the like deals there on the table. Mike's like, yeah, I think we'll think about it when we get back to the States. And Nick Grillo was the manager at the time, wasn't he?
Right.
I was like, I don't know why he didn't just sign it. Like a few weeks later or whatever, when they get back to the States. I don't know if then by that point 2020's come out and isn't doing so well, but Deutsche Grammophon get cold feet. They're like, no thanks.
Yeah.
So like 1969 really is like loads of little peaks and troughs.
Yeah, I mean they fought for a long time to look for a new label, because I mean, imagine the Beatles leaving Parlophone and being like, where do we go now? Like, it was one of those things like you lift your home and where do you go? So, you know, it's one of those things where like if it happened now, like I feel like any record company would be like groveling at someone's feet to get the Beach Boys on their label. Like, oh my God, we'll do anything for you. But in 1969, 1970 in America, no one wanted them. They were totally uncool. You know, they came on stage in their shirts and their suits and stuff, and no one gave a crap. Like, they just didn't care. In England and everywhere else, people loved them. But America is very quick to dismiss people when things change, which drives me nuts about the American music scene. But so people get left behind very fast.
Well, we spoke about it last time we spoke on the Smiley Smile dive that we did.
Yeah.
Basically, that was it. It was like the rug was just pulled out from under them within the matter of months.
Mm-hmm.
And here they are still kind of feeling the effects of that.
And
it's amazing they even get a deal here, frankly, I think.
It truly is.
And I think it's through goodwill, because they do this deal with Warner in the end. And it allows them to reinvigorate the Brother Records label. But I think it's because, who is it? Like Mo Austin's the president or something.
And Larry Walker.
He likes them.
Yeah, they were fans. Simple as that. And, you know, that's the thing. Like, a lot of people in the industry were fans of them, but they knew they weren't going to sell records. So it was very tricky to be like, man, I love you guys. You're great. But I'm not going to play your song on the radio. And that was what Fred Vale went through, trying to promote them for Add Some Music to Your Day. You know, a handful of months later, that poor guy went to every radio station in America, and people were like, yeah, I love the Beach Boys. Brian, well, yeah, great dude. I'm not going to play that damn thing. And he was like, why? Why not? And they're like, well, we want Jimi Hendrix. We want The Who. We want Led Zeppelin. We want this harder, you know, we want Cream. We don't want this light little song about peace and love. That's not what people want to hear. But yeah, it truly is.
If you've never seen the interview of Fred Vale talking about that, you've never seen a man so passionately in love with a band.
Yeah. And it breaks your heart to see it, because like he really tried. And those were the days where you could do that. You can go to a radio station and have some sort of sway over the disc jockey and say, hey, you gotta play this thing. You can't do that anymore. But yeah, and it's really cool that Mo Austin it was really into the Smile stuff, and he really loved Cool Cool Water. And when he heard some of that stuff, he was like, hey, you guys should try that again, but like we could do that on an album. And that's kind of what started that new wave of what became Sunflower eventually. But he believed in them, you know, and the fact that they recorded so much throughout 1969 and early 1970 and went through like, I don't know, 3 or 4 rejections of complete albums before Warner Bros. Was finally like, all right, well, that's the one, we can put this one out. This seems good enough. Like, they worked so hard. It just blows my mind that like 3 years earlier, #1 band in the world, bigger than the Beatles on the NME, you know, music polls. You couldn't do any wrong. Derek Taylor was their publicist, calling Brian Wilson a genius. These guys were on top of the freaking world. And now they were like nobodies, starting over from the absolute bottom again.
Mad.
Truly. Mad.
I heard a good story about the like the Warner deal. And this is just like total typical Brian at this time. apparently, like the executives turn up to his house to kind of like meet with him, maybe flesh out the deal a bit. And Nick Grillo's like there. Apparently, Brian just comes out perfectly civil, polite, except his face is just completely painted bright green, and proceeds to conduct the whole meeting with a bright green face that nobody references. And when they leave, Nick Grillo is just like, what the hell are you doing? You're trying to like ruin this deal. Like, why are you doing this? Brian's just like, just to see how people would react.
Yeah, classic Brian. He loved trolling people, man. I don't think people realize how funny Brian is. It still is. I mean, he loves pranks. Yeah. Oh my God.
So much of that is sad and it's revisionist. People look back on that and go like, oh, these signs of like Brian Wilson is mentally damaged man and sick, and it's like he was just like having a good time. He just used to, love ragging on people.
Yeah, I mean, he definitely
fun-loving guy.
Yeah, he definitely had his mental illness and his demons that he fought, but he also had a lot of fun at the same time. Goofing with people. I mean, the stuff between him and Mike back in the day was like hilarious. How they'd goof with each other and play pranks and stuff. Like, but yeah, I love that story. Its entire face painted green. And it's a classic. It's like, here's a band that cannot catch a break, and here comes their supposed leader walking out in green face paint. And it's like, maybe it was the times, but oh my God, I love that story.
Genuinely a bit darker, though. I think we have to mention the shadow of Charles Manson hanging around in 1969.
Yeah.
I mean, Dennis as well, just Dennis as a whole. Such an explosion again of like, he's only been really like seriously songwriting for like a year at this point.
Yeah, if that. Yeah, it's pretty new at it. Yeah.
Bruce says he showed him like on the Japan tour in '66, like 10 minutes, sat down, like taught him how to play piano. Yeah. And here he is. And it's just this like, and I suppose because of his character of being probably like quite a bottled up kind of person, and that's why he was always kind of a bit wild or whatever.
Yeah.
And there's just like suddenly this like outpouring of these like fragile, beautiful mostly beautiful big ballads and some pretty convincing like rock songs for that era.
Yeah.
But yeah, everything with Manson happening in this year kind of casts a bit of shadow, and it all comes to a head, doesn't it? Obviously the murders, but even then, like after that, while Manson is still, he's not been linked to it and he's at large, there's this story of him delivering a bullet and like saying that's a bullet for Dennis, and he's gonna kidnap his son, and so it's a bad time. And Dennis is living a weird lifestyle as well. He's left his house, and apparently he's living like a kind of like bum, but he seems to like it. He's like, I've had a family. I've lived in a big house in Bel Air. I've lived here and there. Now I'm just in a basement. It's just a bed and a piano.
Yeah.
Which I think, that's quite a romantic vision as well.
Yeah.
Like anyone who's got any kind of like musical aspirations, that's quite a nice idea to think, I'm just going to like just have sleep and I'm going to have that piano, and then it's all going to come out because I won't have any distractions. But of course, we're not all that talented. It definitely worked for Dennis.
Right. He really enjoyed that nomadic life, which I think is why he loved touring so much too. But yeah, he definitely had a period where he was like kind of doing that for a while. And he would do it again at the end of his life, or what I think that was consequential of what was happening to him at the time. But yeah, I remember reading about that too somewhere back in the day. He just loved being anywhere and learning new things and not being stuck to one position. But yeah, that Manson time was tricky because Dennis was a very giving guy. And I think a lot of that comes from the trauma he experienced as a kid growing up in that household. With Murray, I think a lot of his tough guy, macho, bravado exterior was because of that as well. He became that tough kid, the Dennis the Menace on the street. But the music we got was from the soul, and that was the part of him that he didn't really let out too much, but he would later on. But yeah, that Manson era, here he was thinking he can help these people and learn. I mean, it's so hard to contextualize because the 60s was so different than anything anyone experienced before that, at that generation. And so you have all these hippie people and, groups of people living together. And, there's always some new shaman who would come around and be like, oh, this guy's the next dude. This is the guy. You got to meet this guy. Everyone had that one dude who was like this magical guy. And a lot of people saw that with Manson, unfortunately. But it's weird because the music that Dennis was creating at this time doesn't necessarily, for me, feel like it would have come from this horrible experience, because there's a lot of humor in some of his stuff, but there's also a lot of, it just feels like inner demons trying to figure out his own self. Doesn't feel like anything is like, there's no song that's like, whoa, this guy I met, he's living in my house, he really sucks, I hate this guy, let's get rid of him. Like this. There's no song like that. It's all, I always think it's Sound of Free,
Yeah, well, I always think of the big love ballads, because this is when Barbara has come into his life.
She changed everything for him.
Half these songs are just love songs written to her, very explicitly. Well, obviously in the song Barbara, but all of these ones about love, and they're so pure and simple to the point where if somebody else sang them, they'd be cheesy and cloying.
Completely.
It's just a great point. Got that sincerity. Yeah.
That's a wonderful point, because like when I was deciphering the background vocals of Slip On Through, it's literally him saying, babe, I love you over and over again. But like the way they do it and the way he wrote it, it reinvents the word. But if you'd give that song to and I'm gonna get hate on for this, if you gave that song to the Monkees, I love the Monkees, but it would have sounded cheesy. It wouldn't have had the same effect. But yeah, Barbara, for him, from what I've read, that was like the best relationship he ever had, was with her. And he was living pretty straight at that point. He wasn't doing anything too crazy. He was pretty clean. He was extremely active in the studio. He was learning how to write songs. Extremely fertile period for him. One of the best periods of his life after the Manson stuff. Barbara was like the next best thing to help him.
And that's why it's been so, I think, an injustice that all of this great stuff's been buried away for so long. And like this, I think for Dennis Wilson fans, this is the moment. We had the moment with the Pacific Ocean Blue reissue. But we knew that there was this other kind of like wealth of material from this time, and these kind of half-baked plans maybe for an album. And now we can all assemble it as we see fit and enjoy it. And it does seem a bit sad. I do listen to all this stuff and think, what if someone had put together a 12-track Dennis Wilson album at this point and put it out there. He'd have been an absolute superstar. He looked great around this time. And he's breaking out from the band as well in other ways. Last week I watched Two Lane Blacktop.
Nice.
Refreshed myself on that. He's just got like superstar potential written all over him.
Completely.
It's like he never quite had that ambition. Like he was happy just getting the songs out.
I think he was more of an artist than wanting to be a frontman. And if it happened to him, he was all right with the position, but he wasn't looking for it. Whereas, I feel like Mike had to be the frontman. He always felt like when you see videos of Mike in the background, he always seems uncomfortable because he's not sure what to do. Whereas Denny can fit in any of those positions back and forth. He can jump forward. He can be in the back. He knew what he was capable of. But as long as they changed the name of his solo album from Poops, that wouldn't have worked. But anything else would have been fine. Just Dennis Wilson would have been fine. But and they recorded more than we even know. Especially between 73 and 75, they recorded stuff that most of us don't know about, I'm sure, because they were going to make that next album after Holland, which never happened. It became 15 Big Ones, but talk about screeching the tires on the brakes on that one. But and none of them were happy with it, by the way. But if they put out a Denny Wilson solo album in 1972, I think it would have done pretty well for itself. Because when Pacific Ocean Blue came out, the accolades were insane. The record industry loved it. The critics loved it. It didn't sell, but people really, really enjoyed it. And I think it scared some of the Beach Boys because they were like, well, all these good songs are going for his solo album, or we could have used these for MIU or something. So it's just so tricky, man. There's so much, there's so many back and forths and missteps with the Beach Boys, but yeah, you're right though. I mean, a peak position of his life, he was clean, he wasn't doing anything too crazy at this point. It would have been a good opportunity for a solo album from him at that era.
It would have been so good.
One of the many what ifs. Yeah.
Yeah. Should we jump into some really, really nerdy detail here? I'm not going to spend too long on it, but I think it's interesting to just kind of rattle off 1969. What actually are the songs that they're recording here? And let's get to grips with some of these like early assemblages of Sunflower, because there's quite a lot of them and it creates quite a lot of confusion.
Yeah, there really is. And it's funny too, because like as you look through the progression of what their records would have been, like for me, they make more and more sense as they go. Like, so by the time they landed on what became Sunflower, it's like, okay, that looks like the best set of songs. Because when you look at the early ones, yeah, good songs, but the arrangement makes no sense. It's just a bunch of songs that just don't make any sense together. So
pretty much.
Yeah. I mean, I do like some of them. Some of them are not my favorite. Like Help Is on the Way. Probably one of my least favorite songs of that era. I like it, but I don't put it on.
No. Well, I like it a little bit more now that we've got this extra little bit of chatter at the end.
Oh, well, all right. Well, yeah, I agree. Yeah.
It's never been one. I can see why it was kind of like, sacked off. But yeah, like you're saying, it's here on some of these early versions of the album. Well, let's list these songs. So, I mean, they started from the 9th of January, sorry. So, and in the period up until 23rd of April, they start work basically on Dennis stuff. So you've got San Miguel, Forever, Got to Know the Woman, Deirdre, a song called What Can the Matter Be? I'm still not sure what that is.
That's never come out.
That's not on the box, so I don't know if it's got a different name or something. Celebrate the News, Loop de Loop, All I Want to Do, and Breakaway.
Yeah.
And then obviously Breakaway and Celebrate the News are released in June as a single. And then, I mean, we're just like, basically at that point, they go off touring. And then when they're back, this is when like the main kind of like work on the album takes place, I think. Between July 69 through till February 1970, they record tons of stuff. You've got Slip On Through, Cotton Fields, I'm Going Your Way, Soulful Old Man Sunshine, Walkin', Games Two Can Play, Add Some Music to Your Day, When Girls Get Together, Our Sweet Love, Raspberries, Strawberries, which turns into, I can't remember. That's At My Window, isn't it?
Yeah, I think they changed a bunch of I think they kept the music, but changed the words. I'm pretty sure that's what the story goes with that one.
I mean, this keep coming. Tears in the Morning, Susie Cincinnati, Brian's Till I Die, demo.
Yeah, early song.
This Whole World, Where Is She, Back Home, Lady, Carnival, I Just Got My Pay, Good Time, Take a Load Off Your Feet, You Never Give Me Your Money, and a couple of untitled songs, which could actually be just Brian working on other stuff, like maybe the Stephen Kalinich album or something.
Right.
Or they might be, there's a few songs on here that I had no idea what they were, so maybe they're those. So that's everything up till February 70. That's when they assemble the first version of this album, which is Slip On Through, Take a Load Off Your Feet, Forever, Games Two Can Play, Add Some Music, instrumental version of When Girls Get Together.
Ugh.
Yeah, one of my least favorite songs.
Yeah, I don't know. No.
Our Sweet Love, Tears in the Morning, Back Home, Lady, I Just Got My Pay, Carnival, Susie Cincinnati, and Good Time. What do you make of that?
It's great songs, way too disjointed.
Yeah.
I mean, that is like an iPod on shuffle at that point. It doesn't make any sense. But they did leave off a couple of great tracks. I mean, I really think Lady would have been a great addition to that album. I love that song. But songs like I Just Got My Pay, love that song. It doesn't fit anywhere. It fits nowhere. It doesn't, like, it could have been a B-side, but even at that point, it doesn't have a home. It doesn't feel like it goes anywhere. Funny enough, that song became Marcella.
Yeah.
Which is pretty interesting. And All Dressed Up for School was part of that as well. But so that song had a life of its own previously and after they made that. But Back Home, I love that song. If they had done a different version where in America, if both Cotton Fields and Back Home were on the same side on Sunflower, I think they could have worked. But because it sounds awkward on, is it Love You? Yeah, it's on Love You, which just seems
Back
so
Home.
weird.
Oh, Good Time. Yeah, Good Time.
Or Good Time. Yeah, Back Home was on 15 Big Ones. Yeah. Again, it just doesn't feel right there. But
just bizarre decision making.
Yeah, it is. And I thank God When Girls Get Together wasn't on that album. Oh my God.
Let's see if you prefer the next version they put together then in May.
Okay.
And just like these were serious, they assembled these onto reels.
Yeah.
Some people refer to that as reverberation, or it's become known as the fading rock group.
The fading rock group revival. Bruce came up with that one.
Yeah.
He was always the funny one in the group about, like, we know we're not doing well.
I think there's some like internal memos as well that kind of allude to these titles, but apparently on the reel they just kind of say like add some music.
Yeah.
Anyway, the next version they put together, Susie Cincinnati. It's pretty much the same songs actually, in different order. Good Time, Our Sweet Love, Tears in the Morning, When Girls Get Together, Slip On Through, Add Some Music, Take a Load Off Your Feet, This Whole World, I Just Got My Pay, At My Window, Lady.
That's definitely a very interesting track list. Yeah.
The big difference there, I think, for me, is they've added This Whole World, which I think is arguably the best song on Sunflower.
Yeah, thank God they kept going and wrote that one, because that's, you're right, one of the best songs they ever did on that particular era. But yeah, they're getting close. I mean, the track, the sequencing, I think, is what's messed up on that one. Slip On Through just has to be an opener. The way that intro on that just feels like a, hey, welcome to the album kind of song,
Totally.
Susan Cincinnati, it's a good rocker, but it doesn't feel like an opener. It feels like somewhere buried on the end of track side one or something.
I agree.
But yeah, I mean, great songs on that one. Again, Lady was around for that. It made it past round 2. The song that just kept trying.
I should have mentioned as well, before those were assembled, back in February of 1970, they put out the first Warner single, Add Some Music to Your Day, with Susie Cincinnati on the B-side. You've already mentioned Fred Vale's efforts to make something happen with that song. Just wasn't wanted at the time, right?
No, and at the time, Warner pressed up more copies of that single than any single they'd ever made for like a promo kind of thing, and they just languished. It didn't go anywhere. And when the Beach Boys had a potential idea to call the album "Add Some Music to Your Day," they were like, "Nope, we want nothing to do with that song. It didn't do anything for us. It's a complete flop. Please get rid of that name at all from the album cover." They've always had a tough time with that track. Record companies have always seen that one and be like, "Oh God, not that one."
Then they have to go back. So that came out first.
Mm-hmm.
Then they have to fulfill their deal with Capitol.
Yeah.
So they give them Cotton Fields. So that comes out in April of 1970. That was actually a pretty big hit here in the UK.
Yeah, it did nothing over here, but over there it was a gigantic song. Yeah. And in Australia or New Zealand, it went to #1 or something. It was a giant
Nice.
song. Yeah. That's what
I
I
like
mean.
it. It's
Like,
pretty good.
Al Jardine, man, is a secret Beach Boys weapon. Like, I've said it before and I'll say it again. When they're in a pinch, Al comes up with a good hit song and they're like, all right, thank God Al's here. Like, he did it a bunch of times.
It's so good. They put it on Sunflower here in the UK.
I know. That's so cool. That is so cool.
Although it's nice that it's there. It's kind of strange.
But where is it on the album? It opens the album?
I think so.
Ew, that's weird.
Yeah.
That's awkward.
My copy.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is imagine Dennis and Al. It's a bit awkward, Al. But I gotta tell you screwed up our album
too. Yeah. Slip On Through was a single as well, but did nothing.
Yeah, so that's the next one then in June. Slip On Through. What's on the B side of that? I can't remember. I think they just used.
I can't remember. I know Tears in the Morning was an A side, but maybe Deirdre. I can't remember. It was the B side of Slip On Through.
I think that's quite. I mean, more so than Add Some Music. That seemed like a good single to. Let's have a go at refreshing them. It sounds a bit more contemporary.
It's got all the marks of a good song, a big catchy chorus, really good sing-along, really well-constructed verses. There's a lot going on in the background. Like, it's got the marks of a good, well-produced hit single. And just didn't do anything.
Finally, they get to June. This is interesting because this is when they think we need to give an album to Capitol.
Yeah.
So this isn't meant to be Sunflower, but this is kind of like, yeah, we can actually hoover up some of this stuff and just like give them a goodbye album. So I find this really fascinating. What do you think of this if this had come out? Cotton Fields, Loop de Loop, All I Want to Do. Just those two songs next to each other.
So weird.
Got to Know the Woman, When Girls Get Together, instrumental. Breakaway, San Miguel, Celebrate the News, Deirdre, The Lord's Prayer.
I forgot about that.
Which is the old 1963
the B-side. The Little Saint Nick, yeah.
They just reprocessed it here, stereo.
Yep.
And then end on Forever. Maybe that kind of makes a little bit of sense to have this like angelic a cappella leading in as a intro into like Forever, maybe. I've never actually programmed it to. So I'm gonna put that in Spotify. And
that might be fun to do.
See how it flows.
Yeah, that's still a weak album, but really good songs. And it's funny because sometimes I'll say things like that. People will be like, "How can you be a Beach Boys fan if you're saying it's a weak album?" It's like, well, because I've done this for so long and I've worked with radio for so long that I know what makes a decent. I mean, you're a music fan, you know what makes a good album. Like, yeah, are those songs awesome? Yeah, totally. Does it flow? Nope. Celebrate the News? Cool song. On an album? Hell no. It doesn't work. Doesn't work.
They give up on this idea. They get cold feet, don't they? It's not that it's rejected, I don't think, by Capitol. I think they go, actually, let's not give them this stuff. We'll keep it in the can.
Yep.
And at this point, they actually, in September, so I'm jumping ahead a bit here, but they then start assembling already their proposed second Warner album before Sunflower's even finished.
Right.
But essentially they're kind of done. They record a few last things. Like you say, Mo Austin requests they work on Cool, Cool Water.
Yeah.
And they also record a new Dennis song, It's About Time. And apparently 21st of July 1970 is when they compile the final master reel for what actually becomes Sunflower. So basically from January all the way through to July of January 69 to July 70. It's possibly the longest gestation of the Beach Boys album, I think.
Oh, easily, hands down.
When we get later down the track, maybe, but
Yeah,
definitely, like at this point. Why was it such a painful process? I guess just all these changes, right? All the everything we've talked about.
To not sell. You spend a year and a half making an album and then no one buys it. Like, that's gotta hurt. I mean, it did better in the UK, but in America, it hit like 151 or something. In America, no one bought it. Yeah, truly. Like, to see a copy of Sunflower in the wild over here, extremely rare. Extremely rare. And when you do see it, it's always like $50.
Wow.
Because no one bought it. So when you see one, it's like, oh my God, there it is.
It did okay here. I did look this up earlier.
I think it was a top 30 album in the UK.
Yeah, I think it was. Yeah, maybe like around 30, 34, something like this.
Yeah.
I think Surf's Up did about the same as well. So
yeah. So the Surf's Up did a lot better over here in America than Sunflower did. Surf's Up hit number 29, I think. Which for a new Beach Boys album was pretty damn good.
Yeah. Well, that was all. I mean, we'll talk about.
Yeah, we'll get into that.
The response and fallout from Sunflower. That horrible, horrible, deflating kick in the nuts. I was going to say teeth, but I've already said that. Kick in the nuts is probably more accurate.
They got both on that one, yeah.